Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is David Hensley of Cambium Networks. This is the LINKPlanner 5.0 webinar, and we are using a new system, so thank you for your patience in advance. Hopefully everyone can see the screen. It should say LINKPlanner 5.0 webinar. If it does not, please enter in your chat window. Let me know if you're not seeing that particular screen. I am going to talk about the things that are in the newest version of LINKPlanner. The assumptions are that you are an experienced LINKPlanner user. So if you are brand new to LINKPlanner, this will be informative for you. It will be interesting. It will be exciting. But it's going to be an advanced presentation. I will not be starting from ground zero, creating links and things like that. I'm going to do a deep dive into some advanced features. If you're a beginner, I would not suggest getting off immediately, but you may be a little bit frustrated. So just a heads up, just a warning. In addition to this being the first time using this webinar system, we also have a guest with us. My son is here, Benjamin. Say hello, Benjamin. Hello! So he will be here helping me out. We also have Susie, who's helping me out as well. Let's see. Without further ado, let's get going. So let me show you the agenda first thing. This is a list of what we're going to be talking about. So if none of this interests you, if you're an advanced user, none of this interests you, feel free to leave the webinar right now. But here's what we'll be talking about. Obsolete products, clutter, moving a connected site using Google Maps, remoting an AP, changing beam width, orientation, and range, selecting individually overlapping APs, and then also the new group functionality. So if none of that interests you, feel free to dive off the webinar right now. But let's get started. First thing I want to tell you is we have a community forum, and I want to encourage you to use that. Oftentimes, people have problems with LINKPlanner, and it'll either be software, but people have questions on how to do things, and they have two ways of letting us know that they're having issues. One of them is this community forum, and it's a public forum. And the reason why you need to know about that is you're probably having the same problem that someone else has had. So if you want to find your answer really quickly, you can go to the forum, dive into the management section, and I'll show you how to do this, and look up, search for the problem that you're having. If if the problem is more of a very specific type of problem, or it's somewhat personal, like you don't want to share it with the entire world, you can also send an email to linkplanner@cambiumnetworks.com, and we have a team of people who read those emails and respond to them immediately. It's the same team who are responding to the forum, but it's in more of a private environment. It's an email-based environment. In addition, Cambium Networks is also on social media. If you want to get the latest information, you can get it from Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. Just want to let you know about that. Here's what I just talked about. This is a hard link to the forum for LINKPlanner, and then again, I've listed the LINKPlanner at cambiumnetworks.com if you're having a problem. Let me show you how to get to it. Let's just go to that forum right now. So this is a post that Rachel created right when version 5 was released, and there were some things that were so important that she put them in red. So I wanted to highlight those immediately. This particular release, that is the 5.0 version of LINKPlanner, changes the application from a 32-bit application to a 64-bit application. And that has two significant consequences. First of all, there are some products that are not supported. PTP 300, PTP 400, PTP 500, and PTP 600 are no longer supported. So please continue to use version 491 if you have networks containing these products. Secondly, the Windows version does not always install in the same directory as existing versions. What I have found personally, the way to do this is uninstall, that is manually uninstall the old version of LINKPlanner that you're running before you automatically install version 5. Now, a lot of you, experienced users are accustomed to just, getting the new install file and running that immediately, and it will usually install properly. This is one exception. We've had some problems. You can read about them on the forum where they don't automatically install the way you would like it to. So what we recommend is that you manually uninstall the old version of LINKPlanner before you install version 5.0. Okay. We've talked about obsoleted products. Let's jump into the next topic, and that is clutter. We have added a capability to model obstruction loss with and without clutter. And the release notes, the LINKPlanner release notes, will tell you the models we're using. Without clutter, we model obstruction loss using a cascaded knife edge method. With clutter, we're using a Delta-Bullington method. And you can see the ITU recommendations listed there. Let's just go to the user guide, information from the user guide. You might ask, well, user guide, how do I get to the user guide? Well, you don't have to download it from the website. It comes installed with LINKPlanner. So you go up to Help, User Guide, and that will fire up a PDF version of the user guide. And I believe the first page we wanted to go to is 14. This just shows you where I got the information on the ITU recommendations. Let's see, the next page was 70. So, on page 70, you can see that we're going to add a bunch of different clutter types, and they're color-coded. And each of those clutter types have default heights. You can change those default heights, and I will show you how to do that. You might be asking, well, I can tell you your next question is, clutter, where did all this clutter come from? And that's, we need to go to page 273 for that. You can see on page 273 it talks about path profiles, and this is where the terrain data is coming from. So it's primarily SRTM version 3. We do have some other sources of terrain data, but now we've got this new section in here, clutter data. And there are two clutter data sources, one for the US and one for Europe. And if you're interested in the source and learning more about the source of the data and the data itself, we've got some URLs that you can visit and learn more about this. So let's just try it out. When you fire up LINKPlanner and open an existing project, it will not have clutter enabled. So what you need to do is go to this bar right here, clutter heights, and actually you need to go to General Project Properties and turn on the Use Clutter. So if you're opening a brand new file, this is what it'll look like. I'm sorry, if you're opening an existing file, this is what it'll look like. You will not, it will not have clutter enabled, and you will need to check that. If you are creating a brand new project, clutter will be enabled automatically by default. And the first thing you'll notice is some of these heights look kind of wonky. If you're in the United States, what you may want to do is change some of these heights. You may want them to look slightly more even. Instead of 39.4 feet, you may just want to make it 40 feet. And you can go in and change these just as I am doing, like this. Now, this isn't really the only reason why we give you this capability. What you may find when you load the clutter, when a path profile comes back, you may find that the clutter does not match your experience. It's not what, you've been to the sites, what terrain is there. For example, a link may be near line of sight, but the path profile is showing it as non-line of sight. And you may decide, you know what, I'm not really in a dense suburban area, I'm in a suburban area, so I'll show you how to change that clutter. But going on, initially for the project, this is how you change the heights of the clutter. Now, you may not like the way that we've color-coded the clutter. You may decide that you want your deciduous forest to be brown rather than green, and so we also allow you to make those changes as well. And then the other thing we allow you to do is to restore the defaults. So if you want to go back to your defaults, just do that, and it'll set them back to default. Now, if you are not in the United States, North America, and you're more familiar with using SI units, this is how you change to meters and kilometers. So let me just do that right now, and you'll see the distances, the heights are much more friendly from a metric perspective. Those are now listed in meters rather than feet. So once you have planned the link, this is what it'll look like with the clutter. And you can see that on this particular link we have some pink. So what is that pink? Let's go back. That pink is, this is probably in a suburban area. It might be sparse houses. Depending upon the color, we might want to change that if we need to know exactly what we think it is. You can also take a look at it, but just by looking at the height. What else can I see in this particular profile? Well, go into Edit Profile. You can see that we've added a clutter type. In addition to the obstruction height, there is this clutter type. Now recall that originally all you had was terrain height and obstruction height. So we put this clutter type in the middle, and each one of these segments has a value assigned to it. You can see it's rural open with 0 height, and then it looks like we've assigned this to suburban. Looks like the tool has assigned this to suburban with a height of 9 meters. Now, what if you disagree? What if you're like, wait a minute, that's not right. I know this link is line of sight. These are too tall. Well, you have a couple of options. You can change suburban. You can change this from 9 meters to, let's say, 3 meters. I'll just show you how to do that. Let's see, where is it? Okay, it is this suburban one right here. So let's just edit it and change that to, let's say, 3 meters. Go back to the profile, and you should see that, yep, sure enough, they're now, the link is near line of sight, so we've almost accomplished our goal. What else is going on in this link? Let's have a look at the profile. It looks like, oh, here, this is obstructing this profile. So what we may want to do is look at the antenna heights to see if we got those set right. Let me just raise it a little bit, and that'll get it to the line of sight, hopefully. Did we achieve line of sight? Yes, we did. So that's a line of sight link. Now, what I've just done is changed the suburban classification from 93 meters for all links in the project. And I may not want to do that. That might be a little bit drastic. So let's think about how this works before we make that global change, because not all links may have a problem. So what I may want to do first, in fact, is check the profile to see if it looks reasonable, and maybe I only want to edit those areas that are problematic and that I know are not as tall as the tool is telling me. So it's very similar to the way I would edit obstruction heights. It looks like this area is the one that's causing the problem, so let me just select that. And let's see what we can do here. So here's where I could change the height. I could change the type of clutter. So if I got anything in here that's more like 3 meters, not really. I've got light shrubbery and sparse houses. That'll reduce it a little bit. So what I may need to do is remove the obstruction entirely, and then put in my own obstruction. And that would be applying this to the link on a case-by-case basis. And it would not be a global change, because the first thing I did was more of a global change. Now, if I want all of these to have 3 meters of obstruction, that's how you would do that. Now, take a look at the color here. The color here is yellow. And we've received a couple of questions about, hey, all of my obstructions, they were green now, and now they're yellow. What happened? Well, when we added the clutter, a lot of the clutters you can tell already has a shade of green. So we changed the existing obstructions that may have been added in. We changed that default color to yellow. So if you open up an existing project and you enable clutter, and you already have obstructions in your link, you will see these yellow obstructions, and that's what those are. All right. Let's see if I've covered everything. I think we have. The clutter is applied to not only PTP links, but also point-to-multipoint links. You can see it's not limited to just point-to-point. The advantage to having this is if you are planning a new network and you don't have a lot of time to add the clutter in, because it's a lot of work to add those obstructions in. If you don't have a lot of time to add obstructions in, you can add the clutter in automatically. Now, in some cases, you may not, like on this link, hey, where'd the clutter go? In some cases, you may have to get a new profile here. And that will pull in the clutter that you want. And the link I want is Airport 1. That one right there. So I'm going to go grab that and see if it pulls in some clutter data. Now, be careful here, because when you do that, it will overwrite what you already have. So when you get a new profile, write what you already have. This has some, and again, this is just showing a point-to-multipoint link that has some clutter data in it. So, do we have any questions, Susie? Let me check.
None yet, Dave.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the next topic. The next topic we've got is moving a connected site. So this was a frequently asked question, if you will. What we have here is a point-to-multipoint network, and this is what it looks like on the offline map. And people would often ask us, you know what, I want to be able to move sites around. And what we would tell them is, well, sorry, we can't just go to a map and move the site around. You have to enter in a new GPS coordinate, and it was very painful. And so hopefully now this will be a lot less painful. You go into the Google Maps tab and hold on to your hats here, because what we're going to do is we're going to move a site around just by clicking on the map. So this is huge. You can literally left-click on that site and move it to where you want it, and all the new path profiles will be generated. The network will be regenerated from wherever you move that site. Now, this is a network site, so I got to be really careful, because as you notice, I've got a link right here, and then I have two other point-to-multipoint links. So this could affect quite a few people. So I've got to be careful when I do this. So I'm going to move it. And what it'll do is give me a new latitude and longitude and then ask me if I want to, if I really and seriously want to move that. I hit OK, and then it will move it just like that. And you can see it's updated everything here. Let's go to, let's see, this was Rabat. So let's go to that and take a look at the new links that we've got. And you can see, yep, it's gone out and gotten the Clutter data. Again, we think this is going to be huge because we've gotten a lot of requests for it. You got to go to Google Maps and move it. Now, it's not just limited to network sites. You know, let me move him over here. You can see that you can reposition subscribers as well. I mean, it's crazy. Now, I'm being a little bit facetious here. I'm being a little bit cavalier with my moves, just to show you how to do this. In all likelihood, you would zoom in a lot closer, and you would be a lot more careful with the moves. And I just wanted to show you that, yes, we do support that. So if this subscriber site is really at that intersection, or much closer to the intersection, I can very carefully move it, just like that. It'll give me the new latitude, longitude, and rebuild everything for us. So that is how you move a site. Again, it can be a subscriber site, or it can be a network site. It does not, you don't have to delete links before you move. So we think that this is incredibly powerful, and that you will find it very useful. If you have any suggestions, for improvements, feel free to send us an email. Let us know, what you think about this particular feature, or any other feature in LINKPlanner for that matter. Okay, let's take a look at the next item on our agenda. So this is it's along a similar vein. This is what we call remoting an access point, and this is a feature that people have been asking for as well. It's a little bit different. It's not just moving a site. Oftentimes, when we're setting up a network, we have to have, let's take a look at this network, for example. Oftentimes, when you're building a network, you need to be able to connect the network with point-to-point links. And oftentimes, what makes a good location for an antenna in a point-to-point situation, so that I can get from, Rabat to St. Philip's, for example, what makes a good location for those antennas does not always make a good location for an access point antenna. And so what this allows you to do is move an point slightly, so that you don't have to be in exactly the same location as, say, your point-to-point equipment. It'll also allow you to have multiple access point locations at the same hub. So you could remote more than one access point away from a hub site. Well, how do I do that? Let me show you. Let's use Rabat as an example. Go to Rabat. So here I am at the access point, and this is a little bit trickier than just moving the site. We have to be careful because we're assuming that there's no sort of special interconnecting equipment between the access point and the point-to-point link or the other equipment at the hub. And so what we're trying to do here is keep the cable lengths limited to 100 meters. So you're not going to be able to move an access point more than 100 meters away from the site. And so what you need to do is you need to have a really good idea as to where the latitude and longitude values are, the place you want to move to. And I'm just going to kind of, in a cavalier sense, just move the site latitude and longitude by a few degrees. And you can see that the offset is 40 meters here, so I'm still within that limit. And tell you what, let me just move it maybe a little bit more. Okay, that's too far. So you can see when it goes too far, it turns red. and it actually won't let you apply the changes. So 15 was too far. Let's try 14. Okay, now that looks like it's our maximum distance there, very close to it. And all I've changed is the longitude. And so what I would recommend you do, before you actually do this on a real site, experiment with this and become comfortable with the latitude, longitude settings so that you know which way you're moving things. You can always check it on the map, but give it a, experiment with it a little bit before you make your final changes. So let's do the apply. And so this has now moved that. And then what it has to do is go and get path profiles for all the subscriber modules underneath that access point that you've just moved, because they've changed. Some of the links may have gone from line of sight to non-line of sight. I don't know. I'll have to check and see. So let's go down to each of the subscriber modules. Just double check. Yep, we got our path profiles here. And then the way to see that something has actually been done is that you can look at the map and something doesn't look quite right. It looks a little wonky here. And if you go down on the map, it's like, oh, wait, look at that. Sure enough, the access point has been moved east. And if you recall, I changed the longitude. And so that makes sense. I moved the access point a little bit east. And if you zoom in, that's about 100 meters. So you can see that the network site and the access point are about 100 meters apart now. And that's about as far as you're going to be able to move them. Again, you got to be very careful because you your line length limit unless you've got other plans. You've taken care of that either by adding additional switching gear or what have you to take care of that. Maybe using fiber or something. That's how to move the site. Now, what if you don't like that? What if you're like, oh, that's not. You go to the offline map and you take a look at it. Let me show you how to do that. What if this just it's not what you wanted? You can go back to the access point and reset it. You can say, no, I don't like that at all. Reset it, and that'll put the access point back to the hub site location. So see, now your offset is 0, and the change is not made. It's not affected. Let's just go back to the map and see how that is done. Okay, so the offline map looks good. It looks like this access point is emanating from that network site. We go to Google Maps, and sure enough, that looks good as well. In fact, let me just go back. I've done this once. Let me do it again just to give you a better idea of how it's done. So we'll go back to Rabat. This time I'll move it west. So let's see, west. Let me just move it 50 meters so you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to go west 50 meters. Let me go back to the Google map. Sure enough, that looks like it's 50 meters west. Now, in addition, I can hit Google Earth, and you will see this change on Google Earth as well. So let's just wait for Google Earth to fire up. And this allows you to get a better feel, perhaps, than Google Maps can provide. This allows you to get more of a three-dimensional look at what you've done by moving that, remoting that access point. You can see 50 meters is quite a distance. This is like from one end of this building all the way to the other, and that may not even be the same building. You can look at your coverage area. It's not really a coverage area, but you can see what these other links are looking like. This area just denotes the maximum distance that subscribers can connect, that LINKPlanner will model. If a subscriber module is outside this area, then LINKPlanner will not be able to connect, will not connect the subscriber modules to the access point. All right, so that may or may not look good, but I'm just giving you an idea of what you can do. You can look at the map in an offline map. You can look at it in Google Maps. You can also look at it in Google Earth. So that's how to remote an access point. We've also shown you how to just, move a site. Let's look at what we're going to talk about next. There are some other features that people have been asking for. For example, what if you have, let's just say you've set up your access point so that you've used the standard default value for your access point. The first access point that's produced, you're at 0 degrees north, and that's your azimuth. But really, you think, well, wait a minute, wouldn't these subscriber modules be better served if the access point were pointed directly at them? I mean, you don't always have that luxury. Usually, you've got a large number of subscribers, and they're all over the place. But sometimes you have cases where you're allowed to aim the access point. Well, in prior versions, what you would have to do is figure out a good angle and adjust that azimuth angle. But now what we can do is we can, let me zoom out a little bit. We can change the angle that that's pointed at. And you do that by highlighting it, and then what you see are these 3 dashed lines. The middle dashed line is the bore sight angle of the access point. So that's where you're going to get your maximum, well, typically you're going to get your maximum gain. The other 2 lines are used for changing the beam width. So let's change the azimuth. And be very careful because you can also change the subscriber range. So let's try and keep this at 3 kilometers. It sometimes can be a little bit tricky. But you can always go back and reset that access point. So here's what I would do. I would change my pointing angle so that I could aim it right at the subscriber modules. And there you have it. It's done that. Now, what if I wanted to try out a different antenna that had a different beam width? Well, that's when I grab these bubbles over here, these handles, and I can change the beam width as well. And let me go back. It will not let you exceed the beam width of the antenna. So the antenna you've chosen, it's not going to let you go any further than that beam width. Again, this will allow you to change the modeled maximum subscriber distance. What do we call that? Let me just go double check so I get it right. It is called the SM range. So that's the SM range. And you can see I changed the SM range to 1.2 miles. I think we had it in kilometers over here. 1.9 kilometers. So you can also, in addition to changing the azimuth or the pointing angle of the access point antenna, you can change the SM range. And that's how to do that in a more, it's kind of allowing you to tweak, because normally if you've got a big network, you're probably not going to be doing this to a lot of access points. But again, you're going to have some access points where, maybe toward the edge of your network, or maybe you want to add in an access point and point it in a different location. Maybe you have a dense network and you want a specialized access point to point to just a few buildings in a particular area, and you don't want to have to figure out, oh, what's the pointing angle got to be? Well, you can go in here and just adjust it manually. And then what it'll do is tell you what the pointing angle is. So if I go to robot 1, it'll tell me what that angle is. It is 339 degrees. All right. Next feature. Let me look at my agenda. Select individually overlapping access points. So what you may have, your network may be complex, and it may be dense. It may be much more complex than the one I'm showing you here. And you may have a couple of different layers to your network. You may have a 5.2 gig layer, you may have a 5.4 gig layer, and you may have a 5.8 gig layer. Those access points, you may have decided they're all going to cover the same place more or less, and you're going to set this SM range. How do I make sure that I'm choosing the right layer? Let me show you that. So at airport, let me set up a couple of layers. I'll just go to, I believe this is airport 4. Let me split that access point up. So here's airport 4, Let me split it into two. So now what I've done is Airport 4 and Airport 4-2 now have, there's two different access points there, and I've just divided the subscriber modules between them. So let's look at that on the map. And you can see now I've got two of these to choose from. Well, what I do is I use the up-down arrows to choose which one I want to move. So let's pick that one. And now you can see, oh, I've tried to pick that so that I could change the range, but I've got the wrong one selected. So I can use the up-down arrow keys to select it. I'm sorry you don't have a video of me doing this, but let me just review what I did. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to select it with your left mouse button, and it's going to be the wrong one. Okay, guaranteed it'll be the wrong one. So you're going to use your up-down arrow to switch back and forth between any overlapping access points that you might have. Now this one is not switching because it's not really overlapping. Let me move it back, get it to the point where it is overlapping. You'll see, now when I switch, when I am moving my up arrow or my down arrow, it will switch back and forth between those two access points. And if I have three of them, it'll switch between, it'll just run right through all of them. So that's how you do that. Again, another new feature in version 5.0. All right. The last topic we're going to talk about is groups. And this allows you to divide access points at the hub level into different layers. And this is going to be helpful for some new products that we're going to be releasing. That's the primary reason that we introduced this. But it's also very helpful, let's say, if you're adding new access points to a network, or if you want to model, let's say, a hot standby coverage. Let's say you've got very important customer access points, and you want to make sure that those two access points serve the same area, let's say, and if one access point goes down, the other one can take over. You can model that by dividing your network into different layers using the group functionality. If more than likely you're going to be using this to add new access points to your network, and you can use best server analysis to create new links underneath that access point. And since you have this group functionality, you won't have to model the whole network. Well, if you want, you can only model the new access points that you're adding. And so that hopefully will save you some time. We also give you the performance level at a hub and also within different groups. So let me just show you how this works. First of all, when you go to the hub, what you will see is this new window here, groups. And there's a default group called All APs. You cannot get rid of it. It's always there. It includes all of the access points. Since this particular project doesn't have any group names, the heading under this group name, well, the heading is here, but there's no groups underneath it. So what you can do is assign access points to different groups. So let's just create a couple of groups. Let's see. Let's call one group Legacy. We'll just add another group, Project 1, we'll call it. And now, as you can see, I can go to different tabs under the groups to see what access points. You can see there are no access points. Well, that's because I haven't assigned them to a group. So let's go down here. Let's give this 5.1. We'll make him Project 1. We'll make that, and then the rest of them we'll make Legacy. And you can select multiple items if you want. So how did I do that? I just shift left clicked on the group names, and then I'm going to edit multiple group names at the same time. So now I have my 5.4 access points labeled as Legacy, and my 5.1 access point as project 1. That's my new one that I'm going to put in, let's say. I can, just like any of these other headings, I can sort by group name. So I can put project 1 at the top, or I can put it at the bottom. Just like I can, sort by band. There doesn't have to be an association between band and group name, but that's just what I've decided to do, that's all. Now, if I go to Legacy, you'll see that'll show me the 5.4 access points. And if I go to Project 1, that'll show me the 5.1 access points. Let me make sure I got all of them assigned. Okay, they're all assigned. Now, let me go in and add, let me see, where am I? On Airport 1. Let me add a subscriber unit to Airport 1. Let me quickly. Airport 1 should be this guy here. Indeed it is. So I'm going to add a subscriber unit there. Should have left Google Earth up. So just really quickly, I'm going to add a new subscriber here. We will name it in honor of my son. We will copy it, and we will paste it. And I think it's too far away. I didn't see it go on. Well, we're going to find it. We'll find it. Let me put one. Let me move it and make him a little bit closer. No, it should be right there. Oh, there we go. There he is. Okay, so there's my new subscriber module. And what I want to do is see if I can assign him to a 5.1 access point. But let's say I've added a bunch of them there. I can go down to Best Server Analysis, and I can do this Best Server Analysis. I mean, before we had to run Best Server Analysis on all access points. Now we can choose to run it only on the access points associated with Project 1, which is one access point. Now, let me back up a little bit. What is this Best Server Analysis? What this will do is it'll run through all the subscriber modules and find the access point that is the best server for each individual subscriber module. And so this is very helpful if you're planning a new network and you don't have a lot of time. You can have LINKPlanner connect the dots, if you will, and then you can go back and review the ones that you think are particularly tricky and let LINKPlanner do a lot of the grunt work in connecting the rest of the sites that are pretty much obvious. If you know where the site is located, it's probably going to connect to a given access point. But LINKPlanner may be able to find a better server, and LINKPlanner can certainly connect them and do a lot of the initial upfront work. So what we'll do is, you know what, let's go to Benjamin and change his, let's change Benjamin's height. So I want to show that feature as well. Instead of 10 meters, let's make him a tall tower, 50 meters. And what you can do in Best Server Analysis is you can check that use subscriber site height, and it will not use the default height of 10 meters. It will use each individual subscriber's antenna height. Again, very handy. Now, I'm going to omit connected places to speed things up, but you know what? Yeah, let's just do that first. Let's see what we got. And look at that. It's saying Benjamin can connect to Airport 1, which is what we anticipated. But again, what I'm trying to show you is you're going to be in a situation where you have a lot of subscriber modules that you need to connect in a big hurry, and you don't want to have to run Best Server Analysis on your entire network. Well, you don't need to do that anymore. What you can do is assign the new subscriber modules to a particular group or an access point to a particular group, and then run your Best Server Analysis only on those particular access points, and that will speed up your time tremendously. So let's go ahead and create that, and we'll see what the looks like. No, it was Airport 1. There he is. There's Benjamin. Okay. And you can see we've got a little bit of clutter in there. So we're going to have to do a little bit more work here to get this link to work the way we want it to. But then again, that is how you use this, how you use groups and best server analysis. Now, I kind of jumped ahead. That was a pretty advanced topic. Let's go back. What the heck? What have I got here? Let's go back to the hub. You can see I've got a listing of group names and access points assigned to groups. But I also have, if I want to see the performance of my legacy group, for example, I also have divided the performance summary and the bill of materials into these groups as well. So this will be very handy if you just want to know, hey, what is the bill of materials for my new project going to look like? So go to your new project. This will tell you the performance you've got for that particular project, that new group you created. And here's your bill of materials for that project. So now the bill of materials options you have are subscriber level, access point level, hub level, and now group level. So you've got 4 different levels you can provide that bill of materials for. It's an aggregation, so it's not terribly complicated, but this should save you some time if you're just trying to create a bill of materials for, let's say, a new project that where you're adding an access point to a particular hub site. Divide it into groups, and then do your modeling on that group. And then, you know, hey, guess what? You can delete the groups later on when you're done with them and turn them all into legacy if you'd like. So we give you that option as well. So let me go back here. Did we cover everything? In addition to telling you the performance summary and giving this hub site, we also have the capability to generate a report at a hub level. And let's see, installation reports at a hub level. So, and those will indicate the groups as well. So, have we got any questions?
I do not see any, Dave.
Okay. Now is the time to ask for questions. Again, we've covered quite a lot of territory today. This has been an advanced session on the new features for version 5. We've covered groups, how to select individually overlapping APs, how to use offline map to change the beam width, orientation, and subscriber range. We've shown you how to remote an access point, and then I would guess this is probably the most popular feature. I don't know. I'm not a betting man, so I wouldn't bet, but this is probably one of the most popular features you've added, and that is moving a connected site without having to go in and mess with the latitude, longitude. And then we've talked about clutter. So, any other questions?
We just got one. Where can I find the information into how Cambium receives the clutter data? I know I will be asking other coworkers.
Yes, yes. So that, what you can do is you can go to page 273. That's why I highlighted that right here. Again, let me show you how to get that. So you don't need to go find the user manual for LINKPlanner. If you have installed LINKPlanner, it's right here under Help. And in addition, there is an online help feature as well. So we have 2 different helps. One is online and the other is a user guide. The online help is a slightly abbreviated version of the user guide. So let's just fire up the user guide. Notice that this user guide has 371 pages. It's huge. And so what you can do is do an advanced search and just look for the word clutter. Now, I happen to know it's on page 273, but this is what you would do if you didn't have me at your beck and call. This will give you all the instances of the word clutter, and you're just going to have to search through and find out what you're looking for. But here are the sources of the clutter. So if you want to learn more about the clutter, this is where you would go. And we've provided 2 URLs here, so let me just click forward, click through those, and it should fire up a window. So this is where you would go. You can learn a lot more about the clutter that we've added. The key is that the resolution is 30 meter, which is typically the resolution that you have in LINKPlanner worldwide. In the United States, it's a little bit better for the terrain data, but the clutter data is no better than 30-meter resolution at this point in time. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Excellent. Any other questions? If not,
I don't see any in the queue, but we can wait 30 seconds to see if there's anyone else that has any questions.
right. So if you have questions later on in the day and you think, oh, why didn't I ask that question? Oh, I can't believe I didn't ask that question. Don't panic. What you can do is send an email to LINKPlanner@CambiumNetworks.com. Let me show you that email address. It's right there. You can send an email, and we don't just have one person at the end of that email. There is a team of people around the world who will answer those questions, and so you will find that they get answered within usually a couple of hours. And I see somebody's got a question. There are plans to have hosted shared access for team usage. So this is another frequently asked question. What do you do if you have several team members who are working on the same project file? And the problem is there's one file and we don't have a way to allow multiple users to use that file simultaneously. There are plans in the works to move LINKPlanner to an online format or tool, and that will give us the capability to do that. But we're not ready to announce that yet. What you do in the meantime? What you should do, what we recommend people do, is split up the network into several different files. So typically you would do it by region. You would take some access points, put them in one file, take other access points, put them in another file, and then if you need to have and then give those 2 files or 3 files or what have you to individual users. Once they're done, if you need to see the overall global result, if you will, or system-wide result, you can merge those files together. We have a very good copy-paste capability. You can merge those files together, and then that'll give you the overall performance. And you can generate both proposal reports and installation reports from a project level, if you will. It's not the best answer. We understand that, but we're working on it. Any other questions?
Yes, there's another one. Is LINKPlanner moving towards having sea and heat data?
That is the idea, yes. That is exactly the idea. Are we there yet? No. But that is our plan, is to someday get those 2 tools integrated, because sea and heat it's my understanding that sea and heat has much better resolution on clutter data and terrain data. That is the idea. We have a lot of problems to solve before we get those 2 integrated. And they're not just technical problems. It runs the gamut. So it's a very difficult problem to solve, but we're working on it. Any other questions? If not, let's close it out.
Yep, I think we're good. Thank you so much for your time, Dave.
Thank you. Appreciate your help.
Of course.
And see everyone at the next webinar.
Yes. Have a good day, everyone.